Take On Me by Aha, Say Something by A Great Big World, and Hello by Adele. Now, these are totally different, but they're all alike in one way. They're main chord progressions. You see, chord progression is just a pattern that gives structure to a song. And those three songs that I mentioned all use that same pattern, a 1-5-6-4. And it's one of the most common progressions, especially in pop music. Today I'll be covering these topics, and by the end of the video, you'll be more familiar with chords, progressions, how they're written, and how they're used. Also, make sure you stick around until the end of the video, because I'm going to be showing you how to tie all of these things together. And if you're anything like me and you get writer's block consistently, it's going to be a really valuable tool. One thing you need to know about chord progressions is, similar to the last video when we did scales and the notes were numbered, based on where it fell in the scale. Same thing happens with chord progressions, but with the chords that result in those notes being played, right? So, for example, the one chord for a C major would be C, E, and G, just like we went over last week, right? So it's the main chord, right? Starts with C. So following that key, so for example, C major has no sharps or flats, which is why I'm using it. It just makes it easier. So you're only going to be using the white keys. Basically, for the 2 chord, for example, you start with D, but you're going to play the chord that would result from that. So the 1, 3, and 5, starting with D, is going to be D, F, and A, right? So the 3 chord would start with E, so it would be E, G, and B, so on and so forth, and they're numbered accordingly. So if I say, the 5 chord for a C major key, just know that that's going to start with G, because G is the 5 note. So G, B, and D is the 5 chord. The first one that I'll go over with you is going to be the 1-6-4-5 chord. And basically what that means is those are played in succession. So the 1 chord is played, then the 6 chord, then the 4, then the 5. Now these can be any rhythm. They can be just simple quarter notes, for example. Right. They could be quarter notes, or they could be a bit more off, so they could have some syncopation. It doesn't matter. As long as those 4 chords are played in succession, that's going to be referred to as a 1-6-4-5 chord. Some songs that use the 1-6-4-5 would include The Reason by Hoobastank, My Girl by The Temptations, and A Day in the Life by the Beatles. So for example, as far as My Girl is concerned, I'm sure you can hear it whenever I play it here. Right? Okay, so this chord progression itself is happy. And so what we have as far as the notes are concerned for this, let's just say we're, staying in C major here. We start with a C chord, of course, for the 1. Okay. Then after that, we move to the 6 chord, which the 6 is going to be, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's going to be the A, right? So that triad would be A, C, and E. So we got, okay. So we got C to A. And then the 4 chord is going to start with F. So it'll be F, A, and C. And then the 5 chord is G, B, and D. And it's just that simple. I mean, like I said, there are tons of different progressions as far as like notation wise. That's really all you have to learn here. So the 1-6-4-5 chord progression is a great one to learn because it is pretty versatile, right? And it's easy, right? All the chords are right next to each other. So even if you're not playing any sort of inversions or anything, it's easy to play. And the rhythm doesn't have to be so simple as what I'm playing here, right? So you can do more stuff with it and you can kind of spice it up. So you could do And you'll notice with some of the chord progressions that we're going over today, some songs will use that progression, but they'll just start on on a different chord. All right, so for example, in the 1-6-4-5 progression, some songs will start on the 6, but then they basically just play 6-4-5-1. And that happens all the time, and that's still referred to as the 1-6-4-5. So if you get confused listening to music in the future that has that progression, then that's why. But the second one we'll go over here is the 1-4-5 chord. All right, so this one's a bit more simple. Some songs that have used this in the past are Twist and Shout by the Beatles, Crazy Train by Ozzy Osbourne. This progression tends to be happy, sort of energetic, fun, and I'll play it for you so you can kind of hear what I'm referring to as far as the mood. Right, so very simple there. And the third progression I want to go over here is the 1-5-6-4. And this one is famous for how commonly it's used, right? This is the progression that I was referring to in my intro when I was talking about the, Take on Me, Say Something, Hello by Adele. All those songs use the 1-5-6-4. And then there are tons of other songs that use 1-5-6-4 as well. So like, for example, Beast of Burden by the Rolling Stones, Not Afraid by Eminem, Zombie by the Cranberries. Here's the progression, actually, so you can, and as soon as I play it, you'll know exactly. Right, so you can hear, this one is, can be sad, can be a song that is, sentimental or meaningful. It's often dramatic, and this is a great one to know and have in your back pocket as well. So it's something you can lean on. Sometimes, alternately, this one is played starting with the 6 chord, so it goes, 1-5-6-4 originally. So if you start with the 6 chord, then you basically just go 6-4-1-5. And this is actually named the sad female chord because it's been used in so many women's songs in the past. So if you start with the 6, this is what it sounds like. So you've got like Say Something. Say something, I'm giving up on you. Right, so the 1-5-6-4 is easily the most commonly used progression. The 6-4-1-5 is equally as versatile and can be used for all sorts of different types of songs. So that's a good one to have in your back pocket as well. So, I mean, that's basically it. I mean, there are tons of different chord progressions, but what I wanted to go over today was how to read them, so that way if you see, 1-6-4-5 or, 1-5-6-4 or something like that, you kind of know, what those mean. So just remember, you following the scale of whatever key the song is in, whatever the numbered note is. So whatever the 5 note is in the scale, you start with that note and you play the triad as such. So additionally, there are tons of different progressions out there. I'll list some of the more common ones in the description, along with some kind of quirky ones as well. As I said in the intro, tying all this together, the main thing for me as far as beating writer's block is repetition and practice, right? Because as I repeat things and as I practice, they become second nature. and that way I don't have to think about that thing nearly as much, and I can focus on other things. So what I mean by that is, by memorizing these chord progressions, when you have writer's block and you don't know how to start a song, or you don't know what direction to go in, even though you may have a general concept in mind, it's important to know a chord progression that sort of goes along with the mood that you're thinking of, right? So if I want something sad or meaningful or dramatic, then I know that I can play a 1-5-6-4, and sometimes even just playing that chord progression will sort of get the wheels turning, right? So I've got a couple of videos and playlists and stuff that I think may be helpful for you. Part 1 of this series, which is about scales and chords. So if you're lost in hearing this and you don't know what I'm talking about as far as the numbers and whatnot for the scales, or if you just need a refresher, then click here. Additionally, I have a master playlist of mixing tutorials. So if you're interested in those, go ahead and click here. And I appreciate you guys stopping by. Again, like, subscribe, do all the things that are helpful for me. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one.